Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm Part 93. Not sure what I'm going to call this one, but we continue on our quest to derive an axiom. We've covered a bunch of ideas, we've established all of the physical intuition, we've proved a lot of the mathematical elements we need to do our analysis. Again, we're doing dimensionless analysis. Again, when you put an equal sign, you're equating this quantity or this set of terms to this set of terms, this physical phenomenon to this conclusion. So introducing an equation sign is representative of the word is being a part of language, a part of a system that is more general than numerics. The application of language is much broader than numbers are, but we are just trying to figure out, now we've already proven speciality, which is the natural tendency to differentiate, particularly for sexual antagonism. But we've boiled that all the way down just to say generally it is for differentiation. Right, my pool table isn't special. It's not trying to differentiate itself to impress a cute girl or anything. It is just being at the pool table, it is just sitting there. So at this point, through everything I've said, all of the sentences I've constructed, all of the logic I've presented, all of the empirical physical facts that we've discussed, you can just think, whenever I say the word speciality, you can think the word attraction. And so we're showing how our definition builds up in generality and applies to more things. Constantly going from general to specific, oscillating, vibrating, if you will, to try to produce a new, novel solution. We know the form of the solution is, it is what it is, and the specific solution is sensorality with an S. So now we can take sensorality with an S is attraction. Sensorality with a C is different, or I'm messing all of this up. Speciality is differentiation. Sensorality is attraction. Sensorality with a C is filtration. And then sensorality with a C and an S both connect logically through the word filtration. And so we've talked about how sentience makes an independent organism or a system being able to choose something. It can control its motion, it can control its tension. But we have sensorality with our C as our basis, just filtration. Censorship on a physical level. If I drop my pen and it hits my notepad, the mass of the notepad blocks the pen's motion, so it is getting censored by the book. The floor is censored by the book from my pen falling. And so, again, we already have the linguistical element, censorship with a C, that is in the dictionary, and that's really, that use case is sensorality with an S. So we've pointed out a contradiction. Previous episodes we've talked extensively and effectively have proven that there are no paradoxes. And so you have a correct set of logical deductions, and then you just use the wrong linguistical word, and all I'm doing is just showing you how to change we're going this way, then we just change you a little bit, and then you're locked on path to the right linguistical word, literally just the word to use to describe the phenomenon that you've observed. So speciality is differentiation, sensorality is attraction, and now we're trying to differentiate sensorality with a C and with an S. So we have a little triangle going on here. We have speciality, which has already been established as a axiom. We have sensorality with a C, which is our base. I can't be a human being without electrons and protons and neutrons combining into the different elements to be carbon and to be me that I am today. And then we have speciality, sensorality with a C, and sensorality with an S, which we discussed is attraction. But now we can really make it more even general or more applicable and say it's just your personality. We talked about how morals and values develop to increase your attractiveness, to get a mate. But now I did something really subtle, because remember we're talking about how properties emerge. Light emerged from vibration, mass emerged from light. And so sensorality is attraction, and it is a characteristic of your personality. So what other thing is attractive? Gravity is attractive. And so what we've done is we've encapsulated the concept of gravity in sensorality. You have sensorality with a C as your basis, just the physical world. Then you have speciality, differentiation in general, and then specifically to life, animate objects, things that can control their own movement and their own tension. Sensorality with an S is the cognizant, sentient filtration, and physical law mandated filtration is sensorality with a C. So speciality has already been established as an axiom. We have a good idea conceptually, sensorality with an S. We're looking for its final definition, and sensorality with a C will be encapsulated by the definition of sensorality with an S because it is more comprehensive. And so now we can ask the question, we've introduced this concept called syllability, simply how many syllables a word has. We've talked about physically and empirically why there are 3 prime numbers, 3 elements of what prime numbers should represent, or just iterations. In the same way you have a Venn diagram with your 3 primary colors, resonance, builds, and all of the properties are emergent characteristics, or properties are characteristics, and they are emergent from, again, what do we call it? Integer harmonics. The logical metaphor, not even an analogy, but just the ported logic is harmonics from music. And so just integer values of the peaks at a given frequency. And so now what we can do is we can literally put together those words and show, again, the iteration function and the concept of syllability. Right? So sensorality has 5 syllables. Gravity has 3. So now we have speciality, sensorality, one with a C and one with an S. So we have 3 words. Our fundamental stability of 2 means 2 is completely, or it is relatively stable, is the terminology I use in my paper, which we will still get to, but it's just not important. And that's more for academia as opposed to everybody. But so we can assess words on their generality based on syllability. And so, right, speciality has 5 syllables. Sensorality, 5 syllables. Gravity, 3. So can we make some sort of extremely poignant proof of the 5 syllables being something, it's the first 3 is the basis, 5 is the unifying, connecting syllability, and 7 is the rounding syllability or the general syllability. Because, right, we have for, sensorality, sensoriality, and then I forget the 7th syllable, because that level of generality is never used. You condense the logic, and you really only get to, you can use words up to, but like if a word has 11 syllables, it's not really unique to any extent. So with words with 3, 5, and 7 syllables, you've reached your maximum generality, and then you reiterate. And so we can, attract, and this is something interesting that happens, right? Attractivity. So the general form of attract is attractivity. And attraction has 3 syllables. Gravitation has 4 syllables. So in reference to our efficiency consideration, whatever word that has the most efficiency would have less syllables to describe the same thing. 3 is less than 4. So attraction is more of an efficient word to describe the physical phenomenon that's represented by gravitation. And now we've encapsulated that in the concept of sensorality that includes gravitation. At the lower end, because sensorality with a C is physical objects just obeying the laws that exist. But we can use syllability just as a unitless number. But again, what kind of statement can we make around 5 being the defining syllable? Or, what can we say about 5? Because it's clear that, to me, that speciality, sensorality, the form, the connecting logic is through the form of the word with 5 syllables. But again, we see the defining triangle of sensorality, C and S, as well as speciality, which is already defined. So, but on the last episode, I literally put up there sensorality with a Y, then plus ITIES. So we're really just trying to put that, right, sensorality is singular, right? How about singular and plurality? Because we have to keep our verb-noun conjugation consistent. So we can say sensorality with a C is sentientless, right? Directly from our last episode. Anything with sentience, what is sensorality? Not that. So now we're defining it in complete generality. But sensorality is sensoralities. So again, starting with a C, our basis, going into with an S, to start with an S. And again, to our alphabet, C comes in the alphabet before the letter S, meaning S is a more of a emergent letter. And we showed, again, the iteration of a S and C being very interchangeable or very obvious and apparent throughout history and throughout different languages. So we take the from sensorality ending in a Y, singular, we cut off the Y to make it plural, and then we add IES. Sensoralities. And so intricacy to intricacies, again, general to plural. You start with a general form, the same way you start with, again, I immediately get the division intuition come back where you start with something and then you divide it. You know, a form of a word is a division of a general form. And so that's what we're doing, boom. And so again, what can we say about sensoralities? But again, there will be spelled out on the screen. And if you see all of those vowels, I'm absolutely confident, again, when we're defining a word, it's going to be some iteration of those vowels right there that's on your screen right now. And so, again, we have an E, E-O-A-I, Y-E-I-A-I-Y, E-O-A-I-Y. And so again, now I'm going to, those are our basis of three that will create our fundamental definition in its solidified reduced form. Through the concept of attraction. What attracts something? Gravity. What attracts you to a mate? Personality. But again, those are just, we've put them in order of emergence with an E. But now I just want to say, again, finish up, make this kind of a quick, I don't know how long I've been going, but how do rotation and iteration apply to word construction? Right? Iteration should be very obvious, but again, now, you know, all systems are in rotation, they're going around something else. But like, I don't know, just iteration and rotation. Iteration to me seems just intuitively feels more linear. And again, I say that as like an assembly line, and rotation kind of feels like more like substitution, right? We're rotating our basketball players in and out, we're substituting them, we're not really iterating them. So rotation is kind of like a new element, and iteration is improvement of a given the same element or something. Again, just playing with the logic out loud. But what is the rotation iteration? And again, the gravitation and attraction, vibration, right? So attraction pairs to vibration, 3 syllables, 3 syllables. And so we've literally swallowed up gravity. Like literally just, sorry Isaac Newton, sorry Einstein, sorry everybody else, you guys suck, dumbass. Why not just swallow up the entire word? But to pull another consideration, again, words have different meaning. What is the difference between it and thing, right? It is what it is our form of our solution. When do we use the word thing? And what is the specific difference? Just another thing, a question to be posed. And how does that relate to our axiom? But again, when I say it's in a complete generality, it will apply to everybody immediately. So you should be able to explain it to, your proof should be self-explanatory to a 7-year-old by simply stating it. Words are dynamic, words are variables, they change meaning and function. Context defines variable. Again, way back to 5 years ago, one of my first episodes, context defines variable, the words are variable, and this is how they variate. This is how the variation occurs. It's through this iteration function. But now here's kind of an interesting thing. What is meaning? And let's consider identity. Let's say you're a 3-year-old child, and you're playing in the dirt, and Johnny comes up to you and says, hey, Susie, you're a faggot. And you're like, oh no, that makes me sad. Susie was being mean, or I forget, Johnny was being mean to Susie. So we'll just use not me, but Susie and Johnny. Johnny called Susie a faggot, and Susie was sad. Johnny was being mean to Susie. So what did you say there? What does being mean mean? Right? There are no paradoxes. What does it mean? You're being mean to somebody. Right? Speciality, infinite uniqueness, differentiation. In mathematics, if you're a mean, you're an average. So if you're a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old playing on the playground and another child is mean to you, they're saying you're average. They're saying you're not different. You're not unique. You don't have speciality. You don't have unique value. Or in colloquial terms, you're a basic ass bitch. And so that's what Johnny said to Susie. But that's fundamentally what you say when a little child is telling another little child or anybody's calling somebody mean. You're average, you're not unique. So it's really cutting to the core of personality, of sensorality, is being called mean. But then we kind of have another thing that popped out with that is, again, mean obviously has a negative connotation, therefore bad. Demeaning has a negative connotation and is bad, but meaning is neutral, right? If something means something, it just averages out to some logical value, right? Go to the store. Go. I have some picture of what I'm supposed to go do now. And so again, that just popped out of me. I wrote it down. Make sure I'm still rolling.